Okay, good evening. Hope you're all doing well. We're going to start the shiur now. Today we're learning Maseches Makkos Daf Chaf Aleph. There is a chance that I won't be here tomorrow. I'm going down to Springfield on a good trip, and they're supposed to be back in the sevens. All things being equal, I should be here. There is a chance I won't be, but I'll keep you posted. We are on Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph, about 10 lines down on the second of the wide lines. The Gemara says, "V'chayev ala rosh." We were talking about the halachos of haircuts, those kinds of things. And machve, Rusheshes bein pirkei resha. He put his hands over here to show that we're talking about the area of the temple that we have to be careful about. The next thing the Gemara says is, "V'al hazakon shtayim mikan v'shtayim mikan v'achas milamata." We said that there are 5 spaces on the face, with approximately 1 is over here, on matching on the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, we're not exactly sure what that means. Rav Sheshes ben Pirkei Dikna, he put it at the all of the joints of the problem is that our jaw has one joint up here, all right, where the mandible, where it all connects. There isn't another joint. Our jaw is all one piece, which is why it's very difficult to understand what he's talking about. What does it mean, ben Pirkei Dikna? What does that mean? So that's why the Rishonim and subsequently the Achronim have really struggled with where exactly the Isser D'Oraisa is to shave with the razor, and therefore nobody shaves with the razor if they're from. We just don't mess around. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, if you cut all of your hair in one fell swoop, you shave the whole beard in one motion. He says you're only chayiv one thing. Kasavar chad lavhu. All 5 parts are actually one lav. It's not 5 separate laving. It's not that if you were to shave your beard, you get 5 lav and 1 for each spot. It's one lav. It's one lav, which is really an interesting. This goes against what we were learning yesterday, that all 5 fingers were separate. Now you're saying the 5 parts of the jaw are one, and it's. I mean, I could come up with chakiras, but it's not intuitive chakiras. The fingers are taka different. I get it. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know. Difficult. The Gemara says, that the only isser is with a razor. It says that the corners of your beard you shall not shave. Maybe if you use scissors, there would be a chiyuv. So let's say I take scissors and I cut my beard with that. So Talmud Lomar lo sashchis. Nope, the scissors are not enough. It has to be something that's mashchis, something that actually destroys. And if we have the pasuk of lo sashchis, maybe I would have thought yachalim laktu ben melaket verhitni yechayev, which is some type of also very sharp device. It's not a razor per se, but it's in between scissors and a razor. So Talmud Lomar lo yigalchu, that you should not shave. So that teaches me that only the real Isser D'Oraisa is only with a razor. Ha ketzad giluach sheyesh bo achasa have omer. Zetar. This was a big discussion when they came up with with those shavers, the Norelcos, the lift and pull. I remember when I was in YU, Rav Willig took apart one of these things. He said they don't lift and they don't pull; they just cut whatever fits in. It just cuts. Lift and cut. Thank you. Lift and cut. So he held that there was no such thing as lift and cut. And the machine is moving so fast; it has time to pull the hair up. That's what he held it. I didn't hear him say this. People said in his name that they don't lift and cut; they just cut. And even that they don't even do so good. So it's just they weren't. But all of them now are much better. My son has one called One Blade. What? They love it. Yeah, it's like neon yellow. And there's a shield that touches your skin, and right above that is the razor. Now it's not perfect, but it's very good. My son Yaakov uses it. I don't believe I've ever tried it. Maybe other than just to clean up when I couldn't find my stuff, but. Now, the new chap is have somebody else do it when you're getting a haircut. Ask them to cut your beard. It's gewaldig. I'm such a fan. Anyways, but it should not with a razor. Don't worry, I'm not doing anything forbidden. So that's what the Gemara says is we're talking about a razor. It's just interesting to note the Gemara here has 3 categories: razor, the rehitni, which is the middle category, and then scissors. So the rehitni, I don't know what that means. Maybe it's a blade of some kind. We
thought it was one side of
plucking.
So there's.
What does that mean? That's what you've got. It's usher to use a tweezer. He's on a different Masechta. Yeah. Okay, so that's what the Gemara says. Rabbi Elazar Omer afilu lokta b'malakid chayev. So Rabbi Eliezer was of the opinion that if you use this malakid v'rehidni, that you're going to be still held accountable. So the Gemara has a problem with this manoshach. If you want to say like we learned above the two psukim of Yigalchu, right? So then it should be that it's only an Isser Deraisa with a razor. And lo gamir gzeira shava, then misparayim nami lo. If you're not going to learn the gzeira shava, then why would it only be the rehitni? It should even be the scissors are an Isser Deraisa. Says the Gemara, leolam gamir gzeira shava kasavar hani nami giluach api. He holds that these things really do giluach. So he holds there's two categories. There's the ta'ar and the rehitni, and these two are super sharp and they do exactly what you want. And then the other category is scissors. Basically, all of the Tanaim agree that scissors are not the Isser Dorais, even if you were to cut super close. I don't know what the Gemara means by scissors. Does it mean cutting or does it mean opening the blade and shaving down? Unclear from the Gemara what that means. But then my bin's, what's the difference between that and a razor? Nachanami. It's true.
But it's mashkis because it's not really very sharp.
Right. Also, you use razors like this way, and you would use the scissors. I don't know. I would imagine you would not use them the same angle, but I could be wrong. The short version of this is don't shave with a razor. It's so much easier to just avoid all these issues. I got a haircut once, and I told the guy, please do behind my neck. And he took the razor and started cutting like right here to trim. I'm like, oh, please stop what you're doing right now. It's mamish makif nikah. That was our signature. What?
I always wanted to know.
I don't know. It wasn't. It was just like. It was just straightening. It wasn't like, I mean, if you're going to do the Isser, like do it already and just shave the beard.
I wanted to know.
Yeah, I always wanted to know. Yeah. I would love it. I know myself. I would love it. Yeah, right there. You remember Vince by the yeshiva?
Yeah.
He used to give you a little massage. It was great. It's good. What? Yeah. I didn't know. I didn't go at that point. You should only see that one time and then never go back. But he was a Zion Mensch, by the way. He's a good guy. All right, let's talk about tattoos. We're going on to other isur. Makkos ksoves pa'aka, someone who writes a tattoo. Now, the assumption at that time is that tattoos were not done the way that our tattoos were. First, they'd make a scratch in the skin just to get through that outer layer of skin. Then they would pour in a dye of some kind. Ours are, I guess conceptually they're similar. They're poking into your skin, but it wasn't a pre-cut. It was just what we do is not a pre-cut. What they did was a pre-cut. So if it's kasab v'lo kakeh, you'd use the permanent dye, but you hadn't scratched into your skin, or kakeh v'lo kasab, or you scratched but didn't write. You need both. You need to make sure that it's permanent. The only way it's permanent is if it's right below the skin. You have to break the skin first and then add the dye. What? What?
What's it called? Whatever I'm thinking of shiur. Right? What's it called? Micro something.
You're talking about putting in permanent eyebrows? Pasha to tattoo, no?
That's a lot. There's a lot for women.
It doesn't seem that much because there's shiur being given. No one ever told me.
What's the other side?
It's not quite permanent. Not quite. It's fairly permanent, but not quite permanent.
Is the issue the ink or the damage that you're doing to the skin?
The issue is the permanence.
I got there's a whole. Yeah, I think it might micro something.
So much easier to be a man.
Yeah, microblading, because that's, they gotta cut open to get that dye or whatever in there.
That's not how we do tattoos. We just.
That's why this may not be an actual tattoo.
Mainstream law would say this.
Yeah. I'm curious. I've never. I know people. I know the women who color their eyebrows when they.
No.
But this is.
That way they don't have to do it every day.
Right. And as well, the Mishnah continues bidio. It has to be with an ink or bikachol or something that's blue, I guess, which was pretty common.
That would be.
What's your theory?
Yado, that whoever was writing it wasn't paying attention and wrote biyado because it's a more useful, more common word than bidio. Why is there? You have a correction here tomorrow?
I have a correction. I said bidio. That's what I read it. I read the correction.
Why did it say biyado? Because whoever was writing it wasn't really paying attention. That's my theory.
Not exactly out on a limb with that theory.
I did a little research. I have a connection to the Jewish librarian at Columbia University. So
Wow, that's pretty chashuv, right?
Yes. that.
So you were
Still,
you saw Dfusim Yishanim on this?
What?
You saw like
She sent, it's through somebody else, but I have some links that I have to take a look at. If I have the time, I'd like to sit and compare.
Wow.
stuff.
yeah, I don't know how biyado would have made sense here.
Makes 0 sense.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Eino chayav ad sheyichtov v'yikakeh biyado.
No.
That would have been
Doesn't matter if you use your feet, you're still higher, so
maybe I don't know if that's true, but
clearly video.
yeah,
But, you know,
uvekchol
written,
and the kachol, that's often a makeup term. We see that in Shas, and uvechol davar shehu roshem, and anything that will leave a mark.
Like with the shaving, where it's on the bow or it's on the person who does it.
Not ignition.
Right.
That's a very, very good question.
What does the pasuk say? B'seret lenefesh lo sitnu bivsarchem, uchsovas kaka lo sitenu bachem ani Hashem. It's probably either. It's probably both, like we saw earlier. Well, at least according to one sheet that we saw. Good question. I don't know. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda mishum Reb Shimon Omer. Two Reb Shimons. Eino chayv ad shichtov shem Hashem. Shene'emar uchsovas kaka lo sitnu bachem ani Hashem. You should not write in the and I've seen this before, the Yud K Vav K. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. That's spitz ksovas kaka. That's like the best. That's what the Mishnah says. Yeah.
Shirtless about that. How does that person go to the bathroom?
Oh, he wasn't Jewish. He had no idea what was on him.
Okay, but it's still.
Manaf you're not allowed in a bathroom with
But if it is,
shimbish.
and it's obvious that
It's a real problem.
Tashmish Amita is 1,000 things you can't do. Got it.
What?
What?
You can't get rid of it.
So I do know that there are, I think I actually heard something on this, that you're supposed to wrap it. If you, let's say when you were not from, you got, and now I think you're actually supposed to wrap it so that it's not visible. I mean, we have a din like that by our tefillin. You're in the airport, you have to go in the bathroom. So as long as it's double covered, it's considered like it's in its own container. So that's why tefillin have to be double covered. Talis doesn't, because we wear our talis katan all the time, doesn't be double covered. So if you have your tefillin in your talis bag, you're good, because you have your tefillin bag plus your talis bag. Your talis only has the talis bag, but that's fine. One is in. What? The nylon. Okay, Amar le Ravacha Berei the Rava le Ravashi Ad Yichtov Ani Hashem Mamish. Is that really the din that you have to write Ani Hashem? That's the only time. Otherwise, you can get tattoos. Coming home tomorrow with a big shoulder tattoo. So the Gemara says, no, Amar le Lo. That's not what it means. It's Kidatani Bar Kapara Enu Chai Bat Yichtov Shem Avodas Kochavim. A different spin. It has to be the name of a Baal Peor, whatever Avodas Kochavim you service. Shenemar Chsovas Kaka Lo Tzitnu B'Chem Ani Hashem V'Lo Acher. So only by Avodah Zar. Lamaisa. This Gemara, the Mishnah that places a limit of you're not chayev, it doesn't seem to be paskin that way. It seems to be that all tattoos are isur d'oraisa. I watched someone put on their tefillin 2 days ago at a bris. This guy had a kibbut at a bris that I was doing. He was the kvater. This guy was built like a truck. Huge biceps, covered, like whole arm. Like the sleeve that our kids buy for Purim, that was this guy. They just took a picture and printed, and he had his tefillin sitting on it. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. No, it's mamish part of you. Definitely not chatzitza.
I mean, not taking it off in the shower.
You can't take it off. Yeah, it's permanent. Oh, so says the Gemara, Amar Rav Malkiah. Well, let's remember Malkiah and Malkiah, two different names. Amar Rav Malkiah, Amar Rav Adabar Ava. You're not allowed to take ash and put it on a cut. This sounds like an Isser D'Rabbanan. Let's say that you have a cut and you're using something that has a long stay. It's not permanent. It will come out. But when you're done, it does mirror it's a cut followed by adding a dye. It's not a dye, but it's the step below. It looks like it. So if you have that little cut, fine. So that's not allowed either. That's an Isser D'Rabbanan. Amar Rav Nachman Berei Rav Ika Shpod Shvachos V'Gumos. These three areas of halacha about a spit, about Shvachos and Gumos. We're not going to go into what the details are. You can look in Rashi. We have seen this in Shas before. That was from Rav Malkiah with a vav at the end, not with an aleph. Bloris Efer Makla v'Gvina. Bloris is a hairstyle, and Efer Makla we just discussed, and Gvina halacha by cheese. That's from Rav Malkiah with an aleph, not to get confused. And Rav Papa Amar Masnisin Umasnisa, our Mishnah and Mishnais in general, those will always be quoted by Rav Malkiah with the aleph at the end. Shmaitza, a Shmaitza is a statement from the Amoraim, aka a Memra. That's Rav Malkiah with Avav Simanech Masnisa Malkasa with the aleph at the end. Malkasa is Malkiah. Just a reference to who said what, a cute little mnemonic. Mai Beinayu. What is the difference between the shitas here and the Amoraim? Says the Gemara Beinayu Shvachos as to how they would each say the opinion of the Shvachos between Rav Malkiah and Rav Malkiah. Rabbi Bar Abaye Kapid. Afilu arivda de kuslisa. He was so makbid about the Efer Makle, even if you did bloodletting, which is just a tiny little hole, you were not allowed to put Efer Makle. On top of that, I guess I don't know why we wouldn't have been concerned. Right? If you're concerned about cutting and adding ashes, you're okay, so you're concerned. Right? No, this was done for like style. It was like henna, whatever. They just did it because, or maybe to stop the bleeding. I don't know. But either way, it's not allowed. Rav Ashi disagrees. Rav Ashi Omar, this brings us to the close of the Mishnah. Kol makom sheyesh sham maka, makasa mochiach. He says, stop. You're injured. Who cares if you put, that's obvious what's going on. You're going to heal. It's going to go away soon. You have a big cut on your forehead and you put some ash in there. There's a woman who works in my office for Ash Wednesday or whatever day. It was Ash on a Wednesday. Mm-hmm. She was covered in that. I knew what she was doing. It was probably usher for a yid to do. I don't know what the halachos are, but she didn't have a cut. She wanted to put ash on her forehead. Got it. Where do you think they got that from? Efer Makle b'Rosh HaChasam. It's Min Klal Yisrael. So this is one of the various customs that we have had that others have borrowed. Baptism comes from mikvah. I have a book at home called Their Hollow Inheritance, which is a comparative analysis. It was written by a guy named Michael Drazin, Drazin. Fascinating book. It's hard to read. It's written like encyclopedic, but it's really, really fascinating. Okay, let's talk about Nazir. Says the Gemara, new Mishnah, Chaf Aleph Amar Aleph, almost at the bottom. Nazir Shayashosi Yain Kol Hayom. He's drinking a keg of wine. Ein Chayv Ala Achas. The Nazir can't drink wine, part of his Isser. Even grapes, nothing. Even mishras, no grapes at all. So then the halacha is if he drinks wine all day under one ruse of error, so then the halacha is in a Chayv Ala Achas. Amar Lo Al Tishta Al Tishta V'Shosa. What if I keep giving him warnings and he keeps drinking? Then Chayv Al Kol Achas V'Achas. The Nazir keeps walking in. He's taking a walk throughout West Lawn. So it says one punishment. If I keep warning him and he keeps going in, he's being ridiculous. He's cutting one hair at a time, taking his sweet time. He's just cutting one hair over here, another hair over there. If I keep telling him to stop cutting and then he continues to cut, if a person is wearing shatnez all day, he's only chayav one. Don't wear this, don't wear this. Then he takes it off and he puts it's such a kana. He takes it off and he puts it back on. He takes it off and he puts it back on. Chayav al kol achas.
That's getting into that route. Like, you know he's going to do this. Like, stop. You make it worse. Yeah. I don't know the law. There's a piece of that. Like,
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, we have this. That's the din. That's the din of hocheach tochiach esamisecha. Midoraisa is that the din to give rebuke is only when it can be received well. So there is definitely a line in the sand, and that's the din doraisa. Also, that's like the din to give the negative feedback with no purpose.
try it twice.
Could you imagine I go into a bris and be like, "Listen, you married a shik tomato. You shouldn't cohabit anymore." Come on, that's like dead in the water. That's not the mitzvah of hocheach tochiach samisecha. You have to be right. But I don't think the Gemara here is being politically sensitive. It's drawing out the halacha of what would be.
I want to say this is what you're supposed to do, but if this is what happened.
Yeah.
It's the halacha.
Yeah, the Gemara is always like that, teaching us extremes so that we understand the normal halachos. Let's turn to
At some point, you just turn off the face.
Right.
Giving you that's wrong. So
Yeah.
there's that.
completely different.
There's that.
I mean, at some point, I think to Stan's point, at some point it becomes the guy who's giving Hasra. At some point it's his fault. Like I hear that. That didn't even cross my mind.
But it doesn't make sense because I think the pasuk there says lo yala.
What pasuk? Oh,
So that means that once you put it on, it's on. Like,
lo
it's-
lo
it's not-
silbash shatnez. Oh no, you're right. What's the pasuk, David?
Lo yala ala or something.
Lo silbash shatnez. I'm not gonna remember. Was it by Ikra somewhere? All right, whatever. We have some Gemara to learn. The Mishnah continues. Yesh choresh telem achas. There is a way that one can do one little plow. V'chayev alav mishum shmona lavin. You're doing one ma'isa and you get 8 different isurim. That's pretty impressive. I could do a few at the same time, but 8 is like, that's a tarka. Nacha level. Yeah, that's beautiful. What?
Get a haircut at the same time. They're really, really.
Yeah. So, okay, hachoresh b'shor v'chamor, that's kiloi behema, right? You can't plow with these 2 animals under the same yoke. V'hein mukdashin, they're kodesh, you're not allowed to use them at all. V'kiloim b'kerem, and you're plowing with that which shouldn't have been grown together. And as you move things, you are doing the iser. Ubeshvis, v'yom tov, the Kohen, and it's Tameh, the Kohen v'Nazir, v'Veis Tuma. There's so much going on here. Just like, it's a perfect storm. And again, the Gemara does this to highlight the limits, the extent, I should say, of what can happen in halach. So Hanani ben Chachinoi Omer, Af halovesh kilayim. Don't forget, the guy himself is wearing shatnez. 9. Right? Here's another one. So Amr Lo, no, ain't no Hashem. That's not the same thing. That's not. Come on, you're just saying, and he spoke lashon hara, and he was bowling erva, and like this does. So you can't just stop in here another thing that he was wearing shatnez. So he pushes back. Amar lem af nazir lohu Hashem. You made the guy a nazir in your case. Mechatezi. It's just as unrelatable as saying that he was wearing kilayim. Such a great pushback. That's what the Gemara says. No resolution. End of Mishnah. It's great. All right, let's talk about shatnez. Amar Rabibi, Amar Rav Yossi, Poshet v'lovesh, lovesh mamesh, o afilu machnis umotzi beis yad unkli shelo. When we say that this guy is going to, take off that which is shatnez and put it back on, what does that mean? Does it mean to totally take off the garment, or if I just pull my sleeve out and then keep my right sleeves in, I pull out my left sleeve, I put my right one back in? Is that shatnez? Is that the next levisha? Do you trigger a new levisha only by getting totally undressed and getting redressed? Or no, even if you're wearing it in a weird way, right? You have a yeshiva guy who is wearing a shot in his jacket. He knows, but he took out his left arm to put on his tefillin, and now he puts it back on. Is that a second levisha? That would be the nafkamina between these 2 approaches. He made some kind of motion that indicated that it's taking it off and putting it back. However, and this is crazy, super makbid shita, and it is found in the Rambam. Rav Ashi Omer, afilu lo shaha el kadei lishod v'lo bo shchayev. Even if you do nothing, but you waited the amount of time that it would have taken to swap out the clothes, new iser. What that means is, let's say it takes 1 minute, and every 55 seconds I give you hasra, and you just sit there. Because that's what he says here. It's just shaha. We have this in another place in halacha also, which is hilchos yichud. We say that the zman of the isser of yichud is the time it takes to disrobe, to be meshamish mitasam, and to get dressed again. That's why when a couple who gets married goes into yichud, they have to be over that line to indicate that they're taka married. Even if they're not meshamish mitasam, that's not the goal. But the point is that the time allotment should be there. So it's just a fascinating idea.
The line in the Mishnah. Amalal Tovash El Tovash who poshet the lovesh, it's just the time of poshet.
Yeah.
He's going back on this.
Yeah, it's machlokas amoraim about
Can't
the
argue, right? So
pasha.
he's understanding poshet the lovesh doesn't mean physically, but just the time of poshet.
What's the language?
The bottom line of the Mishnah.
Amrulo al tilbash v'hu poshet v'lovesh.
So I understand, because this comes on the heels of, he was doing it all day long, chayv el ha'akas. But he says, poshet v'lovesh.
It has to be. Unless he has another Tana to rely upon. It's just a crazy shita.
That's
What
my point,
are there
especially
other
based on
scenarios
Mish-
like that?
What?
Would we say that by a Nazir who's sitting on top of a kever that it's the amount of time it takes to
Yes,
get off the
get out,
kever and get
it's
back
not-
on?
that- I'm not sure.
And also Rav Ashi's language is chayip. He's using Doraisa language. He's using like
Yeah,
it's the real deal. Tosfos. Afilu lo sha'el lahafshit malbush. That's not the right one. Yeah, no, it is.
Lo shal lo mechayim. Delach,
Is that this din?
seems like.
Fascinating. All right, let's talk about the next halacha. A third of the way down, Chaf Aleph on the page. We're going to get toward the bottom of the page. Yesh choresh telemachas. We talked about our crazy case in the Mishnah about all 8 isurim, maybe 9. Amar Rav Yanai bechabura nimnu v'gamru. We sat and we all paskened hachofe bekilayim loke. Someone who covers kilayim. So there's 2 seeds that should not be planted together, and you cover them, you get Makkos for them, which is fascinating. Would you be chayav for planting on Shabbos for that? Maybe. You might be chayav for planting on Shabbos even if you don't cover it, just putting it down. Okay. Says the Gemara, Amar Lahan Rav Yochanan or Amar Rav Yochanan, Lab Mishnah Seinu Hizu Rav Yanai. Why did you bother telling me this? Yesh Choresh Telem Echad V'chayav La Mishum Shimon Laban Choresh B'Shor B'Chamor V'Hein Mukdash U'V'Kilayim B'Kerem. So the way that Rav Yochanan understood our Mishnah is that the one of the 8 was when you pull the thing that's in the ground, what's it called? No, plow. Thank you very much. When you're pulling the plow and the dirt kicks up over the 2 seeds, then you're done for force. That was the word I couldn't remember. It's plow. Of all the words that I couldn't remember.
It's what's shaking it down.
I don't know. My presidium is in the room. I should probably work on my vocabulary. What? I know. I was born in the city. Absolutely. I did a circumcision this past week in Oakland, Illinois, 3.5 hours south of here, and they have hundreds of cows. So he said once a year they kill a cow, and the meat lasts their family a full year. They shoot it in the head, pashut, and yeah. So he has a whole business. That's his parnasa. So he actually paid me. He's like, oh yeah, somebody just bought a full cow for me. Here you go. And the cash that he gave me was from someone who purchased a cow. It was $300 difference. So he took a couple $100 back and he gave me the balance. I mean, this is like mamish. It's a cow. Unbelievable. This job, I need to write a book. I know. Been saying it for 5 years now. Okay, says the Gemara that Rav Yochanan says, what are you talking about? That's our Mishnah. I don't need you, Rav Yanai, to teach me the Chabura Nimnu V'Gamru. That's the Dvarim Pshutim in our Mishnah. Why are you telling me that? After all, what would have been the Isser Kilayim? Isn't it when the Kilayim gets covered as the plow is being pulled? Amar Le says Rav Yanai to Rav Yochanan, Ilav did loy lachaspav. I didn't pick up the pottery. Mimishkachas marganisa tusa. Would I have found the pearl underneath? The way that I phrased myself, says Rav Yanai, is the reason that you tushtel to figure out what it means. That it's gonna the dirt. You didn't. The Mishnah doesn't say what the Isser of Kilayim is. You figured it out because of my Nimnu v'Gamrulai. Amar le Reish Lakish le Rav Yochanan Ilab de Kilsach Gavra Rabba. Without the big praise from Rav Yanai, Haba Amina Masnisan Mani. I might have thought that perhaps that our Mishnah was not like Rav Yanai, but rather Rabbi Akiva he to Amar Hamakayim Kilayim Loka. That it's not the covering of the Kilayim that's the Isser. It's simply allowing it to exist. If I have a field and 2 seeds cross each other and they should not be planted, my lack of picking it up and uprooting it is the Isser of Kilayim. Maybe that's the Isser. My Rabbi Akiva. What is this sheet of Rabbi Akiva? That simply being Mekayim, allowing for these 2 seeds to coexist is the Isser D'Tanya. HaMenachesh, if somebody is doing weeding, the HaMechape B'Kilayim, or if someone is covering up Kilayim, Loke. These kinds of things are not allowed. Rabbi Akiva Omer Af HaMekayim. So this is the shita of Rabbi Akiva that simply leaving the two seeds together of the two foods that cannot be planted together, kiloi hakerem, that is just keeping them. Forget about covering them, even if you don't cover them. If you just leave them there and you don't remove them, that is your Makkos. That's yours. Yeah, it happens on, certainly if you put it there, that would be usher. This is even if you're just Mekayim. If you find it there and you see it, you're like, I'm not picking this up. Unless I'm misunderstanding it, but the language here doesn't seem that way. The language here doesn't seem that way.
It's an example of two seeds that should not be planted together.
That's kiloi hakerem. It's grapes and wheat.
What is it?
Grapes and wheat. That's an isur d'oraisa to plant them together. In other Masechtas, we learned that you keep them a certain distance apart. We learned, can't remember all the rules, but the shuros, and I remember the pictures and the art scrolls, and I think we did some magnetiles back in the day. Got to bring those back. That's a nice throwback. What? What? We're very sophisticated people, or we're very visual learners, which is the polite way of saying that we're little children, So says the Gemara, my time under Rabbi Akiva. This is awesome. This drasha of Rabbi Akiva is so creative. Why does Rabbi Akiva say that being Mekayim Kilaim is an Isser Deoraisa? Says the Gemara, Detanya, the pasuk says, Sadcha lo Sizra Kilaim. Your field you should not plant with Kilaim. Ainli Ela Zorea. I only know about planting. Mekayim Minayin. How do we know that just keeping it is going to be the Isser? Tamalomar Kilaim Sadcha lo. Now, if you look on the side at the whole pasuk, this is a very odd drasha because he got rid of a comma here. Look at the pasuk. It says, "Behemtecha lo sarbia kilayim, sadcha lo sizra kilayim." Your animals you should not mate inappropriately, and your field you should not plant inappropriately. But he took words kilayim from the tarbiyah, kilayim sadcha lo. Did you see? He pulled words from each different case. That's not how it's truncated. And what he did with that, he said, therefore you cannot be Mekayim. What? Look, I'm a rule follower. I would have said, no, there's a comma in there. I would have Rabbi Akiva is like, yeah, but you're an Am Haaretz, so this conversation is going to be, no punctuation in Chumash. Although this is not a comma, we do see this every once in a while that a word will, just like one comma will move over. We see that every once in a while. But this is a din deoraisa. He's making a drush. This is not a drush. This is an isur deoraisa, being mekayim according to Rabbi Akiva. So that's what the Gemara says. Last little thing for now, and then just a few lines and we'll stop. Amar le'ula Rav Nachman v'lilki nami mishum zorea b'yom tov. You should also. You didn't say that. You said there was a problem of plowing on Yontif. You didn't say there was a problem of planting. Why isn't it molt? Why isn't it another isser in the 8th? Make it a 9th. There's 2 Yontif issers. There's plowing, choresh, and then there's also zareah, planting. Amarle, tana v'shir. Says the Gemara, yeah, there are other isurim too. Says the Gemara, amarle, tana ktani shmone. The at amers tana v'shir. You want to say tana v'shir? Don't write a number. But if you're going to say that there are 8, then you can't say tana v'shir. That's a stira. Says the Gemara, amar Rava. This is, we don't have time for this, but it's beautiful. Yesh chiluk melachos b'Shabbos. When it comes to Shabbos, if I were to do this on Shabbos, you're taka right. I would have been chayav for plowing, and I would have been chayav for planting. However, last of the short lines, ve'ein chiluk melachos b'Yom Tov. However, if you do a stack of melachos on Yom Tov, there is no chiluk melachos. And therefore, it's all going to be one isser. So he did zoreah and he did choresh on Yontif, but they combine into one because on Yontif there is ein chiluk malachos and amarle ada tehei. This is taka true. That is exactly the case, and that's how our Gemara concludes for here. We'll continue tomorrow with Esvei. Mir Hashem, I'll be here. If not, I'll send a message on. You'll probably be on your own, but I'll keep you posted. Wishing you all a beautiful.